Okay, we're up to Zion Amid Beis. Yesterday we discussed Machloikis when if two people are holding on to a star, right? The Malva and they're holding on Steimaduk and Bishtar, the Malva and the Leiva. We saw Machloikis, and we're picking it up over there, about 18 lines to the bottom. Amar Rav Elazar. So Amar Rav Elazar, Machloikis. Now, usually when Machloikis means the dispute between the two people, there's not dispute. Over here, Rashi says, and Taisus agrees, Machloikis means yechloku. Look at Tosfos quickly. The fourth Tosfos down. Machlokus Pirsh Rashi, the Hainu yechloku, the Kama of Shim Gamliel. This din of yechloku that Shim Gamliel mentioned. Din imo, and he agrees with Rashi. He likes Rashi's pshat. So it doesn't mean the previous Machlokus that was under discussion. It means this din of yechloku that we said that according to Reb Shimon Gamliel, if you're going ahead and the Malvin, the Loiva are holding on to the star, what's the din? Shnei Madukim b'toifes. Now there's two parts to a star. There's the tofes and the toref. The tofes is what I guess in the vernacular would be called boilerplate. It's the traditional verbiage that every star contains, albeit in the last line of the star, you're going to go over the people involved, the Malva, the Lova, and the amount will be in the last part of the star. The first part of the star, the early part, is called the toref. That's where you're going to get the names of the constituents and the price, and more importantly, you're going to get the zman. You're going to get the zman of the star. That's what's going to take place in the toref. So the tofes is the boilerplate, and it does contain information, albeit it doesn't contain the zman, where the toref contains the zman. So says Rebbe Elazar, the chalukah that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel was describing, where they both divide equally, is speaking betofes. Either they're both holding on to the tofes, or shneim betoref, or they're both holding on to the toref. Aval echad adib betofes, echad adib betoref. It's one who's holding on to the tofes, and that the regular traditional part of the shtar. Echad adib betoref, and one's holding on to the zman with the names and the amount of money. Zed notel tofes. This person takes the tofes. The zed notel toref. Rabbi Yochanan Amar lo'ilam cholkin. I feel they divided equally. I feel echad achad betofes, echad achad betoref. So even if you're dividing with equally, even if one is holding on to the tofes and one is holding on to the tofes, Iva Tanya zed notel amakim she'adam agas. So how could you divide it? You're not taking into account what they're holding on to. You're just saying Rabbi Yochanan, you divide it equally. No, that's not the case. Like tzricha the koi toiref bei mitzvah. It's speaking with the toirefs in the middle, and then each person's going to take what their hands meet. Yehachi may lememra. Then what's the chiddush? Like tzricha the mekarav legabe dechad. It's closer to one. So madatema amle polik hachi. Go ahead and divide it this way. In other words, let's say as I illustrated. Let's say this is the toref right over here. The word meiri, and this person is holding over here, and this person's holding like this. So neither one is holding on to the tofes, but you'd say, well, this person's closer. So if I divide it, right, if I divide it, he's going to get, he'll get it. So therefore he says, why do you divide it this way? You could just as easily divide it this way, and then they will both be getting it. Okay, we said yesterday, odek means you're really holding on to it, and oches means you're grasping the sides of it. Odek means like you're glued to it, so you have more of a tfisa in it. We said yesterday. Right. So it's speaking where you're holding on to us. Whereas on Mishnah Shtaim Ochsen, they just we're holding on to the fringes, the kakashta, the threads of it. That was the difference between the two. Amir Avacha bin Difli Ravina, Rabbi Elazar, Dama Zen Noitel Taifis, Zen Noitel Tairif Lamali, Kilatzra Pitzl Chisu Tzarech. Now, what is the loiva gaining? Bishleim of the Malva, guys, he's getting the star, and he'll be able to collect from it. Or we'll see in a second, but what's the lova gaining? Either way, he gains nothing by having this piece of paper. What he's going to use as a bottle stopper. Says the Gemara, Amalei L'Demei. We never thought that we're speaking about the paper. We're speaking about value. And the Amahachi, Shtora is this Beizman, Kamashava. A star that has a Zman, how much is it worth? With the less Beizman, Kamashava. The star this Beizman, Govim Mishabdi. V'idach le Govim Mishabdi. So in other words, when we're speaking about division, and this is going to help us with our Mishnah, It's not speaking about physically dividing it. We're speaking about selling it and dividing the value. We're not speaking about a physical division. We're speaking about dividing it and the value. So therefore, the person who's closer to the Torah, a person's going to go ahead and pay for this shtar. Naturally, he's not going to pay full value. He'll pay 80 cents, 70 cents on the dollar, whatever it is. And the one who has the Zman, naturally it'll be worth more. So the difference between having the Zman and not having the Zman would be the difference. And the rest would you divide equally. So that's what the discussion over here is. Who has this in his possession that is Tophus, and that's what you're going to collect. So the Eloi Temahachi, if you're not telling me that it's a division when it comes to value rather than a physical division, Shnai Moksin Batalis Hachanami the Palgi. What are you going to say? The case of our Mishnah, where two people are grasping onto the size of a talus, you mean you're going to cut it in half? Afsadua, right? Guys, what is you have a talus, you cut it in half. What's it worth? What's it worth? So in other words, obviously, what does it mean? It must mean whatever you'll sell the talus for, you'll divide the value of the talus. Says, well, if that's your case, holy kasha, that's not difficult. The chazil katanim, you can cut it, the talus again. I don't think the talus necessarily means with tzitzis. It could be, some type of, or it could be tzitzis, and you'll go ahead and you'll add tzitzis to it. The chazil katanim, if katanim possibly could go ahead and wear that. So, in other words, if your raya is from the Mishnah that it's not a physical division, you have no raya, because it could be that you are dividing it. What's it used for? So kids could go ahead and use this piece of garment and they put tzitzis on it if they want. And if it's a talus that has what? That has maybe some gold, embroidered in it or some type of gold in it. What are you going to do? You're going to cut the talus up? Obviously, you're not going to cut the talus up. So it must be you're going to sell the talus and divide the value of the talus. So you have a raya. Gemara says, no, on that you don't have the raya either. Halei kasha. The chasil b'nei malachim. You have little princes, they can wear it. So if that's your whole raya, or Mishnah or talus misuhavis, is that your whole raya of not doing a physical division? That's not necessarily a raya. It could be you do a physical division. However, albeit you'll have a smaller talus and you'll use it for small children. Says the Gemara, Vatanan hayishnayim roichvin agabi behema. So what did our Mishnah say? Two people are riding a behema. Write the same thing, correct? And what did we say? Yachloku. What are you going to do over there? You're going to cut the animal in half? Guys, you're going to cut the animal in half? So obviously it must be bad. You're going to sell the animal and get value from it. Says the Gemara, Hachanami de Palgule, Hafsadua. Now, Bishlema Tahira, Bishlema, if it's a kosher animal, you cut it in half, Chasi Labasa, meaning that what? You'll shecht it, you'll sell it, and each person will get different parts of the meat. So maybe it does mean a physical division. Elatmeya, let's say they're both riding a donkey or a horse, right? What are you going to do? You're going to kill it? Hafsadua. Ela must be l'demei, hachanami l'demei. So that's a good raya. In other words, that's the raya brewer from the Mishnah itself. That when it speaks about yachloku, we're speaking about selling it and dividing the value rather than what? Than an actual physical division. It's a good thing to know. Yachloku. Many of us think that means. Guess what? No, it doesn't mean that. It means what? L'demei. Good. Okay, now we're beginning a sugya, very interesting sugya. It lasts for an amid, and yeshiva it's at least 2 weeks. it's very involved. Okay, as a hakdama, I think it's very nice. If you find something and you pick it up, there's no problem. It's yours, no issue whatsoever. It's yours. It's hefker. It's yours. Good. If you pick it up for somebody else, is there a problem? I'm picking it up for Mendy. I find something. I'm making a kinyan for Mendy from Hefker. There's no one else stopping it, right? Can I do that? Well, if you hold Hamagmi Metzia Chavero, you see, Bendy learned. He doesn't answer right away anymore. Hamagmi Metzia Chavero.
You're going to say machlekes, but I know that's
it is machlekes. You just have to say machlekes, Mendy. It's good. Anyway, so Hamagmi Metzia Chavero Kona Chavero. So that would be the case if I pick up a Metzia for Mendy, Kona Chavero. Why would I not be able to? Because when do we say that? It's nafka b'makom shlei chavla acherim. But a place where you chavla acherim, then you don't say that. So, good, I'm picking you up for Mendy, but you know who wants that Metzia? Doc wants it, and Me'aleib wants it, and Avrami wanted it. I'm b'makom, if I'm not doing it for myself, right? Then this, if you hold Magmi Metzia Lechaveri Loi Koina Chaveru, why? Because you don't say that you pick it up from somebody else, you koina b'makom shechav la'acherim, in a place where you're causing somebody else a loss. So, in Cain, is there any way for me to pick it up for Mendy? If you hold a Magmi Metzia Chaveroi Loi Koina Chaveroi, there would be, but I'd have to be Zoicha also. And we'll say, Migu de Zoiche lenafshe, Zochanami lechavre. If this is ringing a bell from yeshiva, it should. Since, Migu means since I can pick it up for myself, Al schia, I can pick it up for you. So, if you hold, guys, I don't have to be zochen it for myself. I can pick it up for Mendy, no problem. If you hold a magmitzir loy kind of chaver, of course it's going to be chav other people who want it. The only way I can get it to Mendy would be through zechia in me, that I would be zochen it and thus go ahead and share with Mendy. That's the Gemara. That's basically what we're going to go through tonight, or the first part of the daf. Amar Rami Bar Chama, says Rami Bar Chama, Zoso Meres. Zoso Meres means you hear from our Mishnah. You hear from our Mishnah. Hamagmi Metzila Chaverei, Koine Chaverei. That if you pick up something for somebody else, he's Koina. D'isal Kedaitach Loi Koine Chaverei, because if you're going to say he's not, He'osazu, when I pick this Metzia up, let's view it. Kimisha Muneches Al Gabe Karka, the other half is on the ground. And the part that the other person picks up, views mine is on the ground. In other words, it's not a hagbah. What's the kinyan over here? The kinyan's hagbah. But if you hold hamagbi, someone lifts up a metzia for his friend loy koina, then I lift it up, my part's up, but his part's down. He lifts up, my part's down. So that was a hagbah. It must be what? Now, the problem with this is, which part of the Mishnah tells me this? Listen to the words. What's the case of a Mishnah? It's not a case of picking up for somebody else. I'm saying that guy's a goslin. I picked up the whole thing for myself. He's saying kulishli, I'm saying kulishli. It can't be from that part of the Mishnah. So we will have to see. So we introduce the concept. We'll have to see where in the Mishnah, which case of the Mishnah is Rami Bar Chama being medayik this in. It can't be from the first case, guys, right? Clearly, it can't be from the first case. The first case, you're arguing. Each one is saying what? The whole thing is mine. So obviously, you didn't pick it up for the other guy. Good. But again, the concept you have. Okay. If, in other words, if my mitzvah is like kind of chaveroi, there was no hagbah. Because I only picked what I picked up was for me, and his will view halachically if it's on the ground, even though it's physically in the air. Very fascinating idea. So elolav shmamina, by the fact that you're koina hamagim mitzil chaver koina chaveri. That's Rami Bar Chama's din. Amar Rava, says Rava, I'll tell you there is another way to learn pshat na Mishnah. Lo oilam eim lachak, I'll tell you hamagim mitzil chaveri loy koina chaveri. Someone lifts it up, his friend is not koina. Aye. So if that's the case, how in the Mishnah are you being koina? V'hacha in our Mishnah hainu taima migu, since. Guys, when you see the word migu, you usually think of the koyach of a taina. But believe me, this I could have tainted this. That's a different type of migu. That's the koyach hatain. This migu means since. Migu, since the zachal in nafshe, since I can be zoicha for myself, zachanami lechavri, I can go ahead and be zoicha for somebody else. So that you're picking it up, could be like kind of chaverei. And if that's the case, I would never be able to pick it up alone from Mendy. Because if I'm picking it up alone from Mendy, it's chav all the people who want to pick it up as well. Ella, well, why in our Mishnah would it work? It would work mitam schia. Since I'm zoicha for myself, zachadad m'shlei b'fanav, and I can be zoicha for Mendy. Yeah, yes, Abraham. Okay, we'll get the case in the Mishnah. We'll get the case in the Mishnah. Okay, we'll get the case in the Mishnah. Teda, I'll bring you a proof. Rashi, the afilu ama loy koina chaveroi, even if you're going to say your magmi mitzia, your friend is not koina, heicha de higbia kula ledas chaveroi, but that's where you pick it up totally for your friend. However, hacha de higbia atzmai ula chaveroi koina mishamigoi. Again, Rashi is just speaking out what I got from Rashi and I introduced in the beginning of the shir, guys. Guys, yeah. If you're going to say when you pick it up for somebody else, totally for somebody else, it doesn't work. Why not? Because a mag mitzil chaveroi loy koina chaver b'makom shechav la'acherim. When you're picking up for hefker, you're causing the other people not able to do it, right? So how would it work? Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible if I'm zoicha for myself. Okay, if I'm zoicha for myself, then it would work. So no, it's what's Rav is saying that you can't be medayik. Rami B'cham is din from our Mishnah. Because I can say in our Mishnah, it's not working mitam hamaitzi mechaveroi, to be a magbia mitzia ba'ad chaveroi, because that could be like kaina and still would work. Why would it work? Because al schia of migud zachan avshi zachan am lechavre. Teda shilu am l'shluchai. If you would tell your shliach, say v'gonavli, go steal this for me, v'gonav, and he steals it, pater. Why? If I tell someone to go steal and he steals away your pater, ein shliach, levar avera, right? Divrei Rav, Divrei Talmud, Divrei Mishoimin. The words of God who says don't steal. The words of your friend who tells you to steal. Who do you listen to? So you don't listen to him. Okay, so you'll be pata. However, the shutafim sheganvu, machlokes Rashi and Tosfos. Rashi learns if your friend picks it up for you, right? The shutafim sheganvu chayavim. You would be chayav. If he picks it up for you, you would be chayiv. One person's being mitzvah rishus for his das and the das of his friend, right? What's the reason he's chayiv? My time. Now this schia doesn't mean it's chud. It means schia doesn't mean in house mitzvah. It means house monetarily, right? Since he's zoicha monetarily in this object for himself, he's zoicha for his friend. Shma mina says Rava, that's the din. Shma mina, that's the din. And now we're going to go ahead and analyze Rava's din. So again, just to reiterate, Rami Bar Chama, the Amoira Rami Bar Chama said a din. That from our Mishnah, what do we hear? Because if not, then is it felt in the Hagbah, one person's picking it up, it's still on the ground. So therefore, it must be they both picked it up for each other. And again, problematic, which case did they pick it up for each other? Then they would be koina. Says Rava, no, I can tell you, and still the Mishnah would work. Why? Because he brings the raya from Shutfin, right? Machlokes again. Rashi says the case is speaking where Shutif goes ahead and he steals on behalf of another Shutif. Al what? 1 second. Al Savera, you can't. But since you're Zaycha for yourself, you can be Zaycha for your friend. And therefore, you see, it exists, Shma Mina. Now, let's speak about Rava a little bit. Amar Rava. Hashta the Amrit, the Amrinon, take out the word the Amrit. Hashta the Amrinon, because Rava himself said it, guys. Hashta, Amar Rava, Hashta the Amrinon, that we said, I said, Migoy, this Migoy, that what? Migoy the Zaycha Nafshi Zaycha Nam Lechavre. Now, a little Hakdam is required over here. A cheresh is a person. Cheresh, we saw this in Masech Gittin. It's not in the Pasha of Kinyanim. If he finds a Metzia, you let him keep it because of Darkish Shalom. A Pikeach, if he finds a Metzia, he's Zaycha in the Metzia, it becomes his. But the Cheresh is a Kinyan de Rabbanon, that's called what? It's called Darkish Shalom. You don't want him fighting people, they're going to fight with each other. So now that you're telling him, Migu de Zaycha Nafshi Zaycha Nam Lechavre, Cheresh u Pikeach, Sheigbiu Metzia. If you have a Cheresh, a person who is he's a mute and he's deaf, who picks up Metzia, mitoich shekona cheresh, kona pikeach. What are you going to say? Migu de zoichel nafshe, zoichel lechavre. Now, bishlem a cheresh kaina de komagbale ben das. So they're both picking it up at the same time. They're both picking it up at the same time. So you know why the cheresh will be kaina? Because since the bandas, the pikeach is kaina, migu de zoichel nafshe, zoichel nam lechavre, he can be zoichel for the cheresh. But the cheresh, he can't be zeicha. His darki shalom cannot go ahead and be kind of for the other fellow. Ella b'keach b'may kana. How's the b'keach kana? Ella, so it can't be they're both kana. Ella ema cheresh kana b'keach loy kana. The cheresh is kana and the b'keach is not. Now the cheresh is kana. Al swat. No. The b'keach's not kana. Again, I'm not sure. Could we see the Gemara? Says the Gemara. If you look at my migo, if you look at Rashi, my migo ikalame mahacha. You're going to tell me that what that the cheresh is kaina and the bikeach's not, right? What migu would it be? The kama hashta the amin migu. He said migu. The word was migu cherish bikeach shebiu metzia. The hashta mina migu amina migu v'cherish. Am I kaina? Why is the cherish kaina? Haloi kazacha bikeach lenafshe. The bikeach is not zeicha for himself. He's not zeicha for himself, Rabbi. The name of the zachi nami lechavet that he's zeicha for the cherish. Havi hagba to bikeach hagba. So in other words, why would this work? If you geiris that the cherish is kaina and the bikeach is not, why? That the word was hashta darmina and migu cherish bikeach. The cherish is kaina and the bikeach is not. What migu, guys? What migu? It can't be migu the zeichel nafshi zeichel nam lechavrei. Okay, so now, my migu the shnei charashim ba'alma. It's speaking about a migu of what of two charashim. You know, if two charashim would pick it up, right? If two charashim would pick it up, since if you picked up with the other cherish, he'd be kaina. Who I did if he picked up with a bikeach? In other words, if you have two deaf mutes and they both pick it up, they're both kaina. So if the cheresh picks it up with a bikeach, it's not worse for the cheresh. He's picking it up with a bendas. So migu that if he pick it up with another cheresh, he's be kaina. Who didn't he be kaina? Even though the bikeach's not kaina, we're not working through the din of migu zeichel nafshi zeichel nam lechavei, because the cheresh can't be zeichel for him. So when it says over here, now that you say bishleim migu amarava hashta darmina and migu. Cheresh should be keach, right? What's the migu? So the migu that would be on discussion was that the cheresh who could be zeicha with another cheresh, ain't idin that what he should be zeicha about migu, since he can be zeicha with another cheresh, he can be zeicha with the bikeach, despite the fact that bikeach is not being zeicha. Despite the fact that bikeach is not being. Says the Gemara, the obvious question. If you're going to say, Amagbi Metzia lechaveroi koina chaveroi, ani mili heched dekomagbile adaiti dechabrei. That's when what? This is going on our Mishnah. That's adaiti dechabrei. Hi adaiti didei komagbile. Iyo lekona lachrina makna. So in other words, not going on Mishnah. Excuse me. So how's it possible over here that the cherish should be koina and the bikeach not? Bikeach's picking it up for who, guys? Guys, who's the bikeach picking it up? For the bikeach. He's not koina, but the cherish is. Now, if you tell me hamag mitzvah chaveri koina chaveroi, when is that? When you pick it up for your friends. In other words, look at me. What mechanism, guys? What are you saying over here? The bikeach is not koina and the cherish is koina. What mechanism can that possibly work? How could it work? It could work of hamagbi mitzvah lechaveroi koina chaveroi. I'm picking it up, and therefore I don't have to acquire it. I can acquire it from my friend. That's if you pick it up for your friend. This bikeach is picking it up for himself. So how is it possible that he's not koina and his friend is? Again, the only mechanism we know of you not acquiring it and your friend acquiring it is that you pick it up for your friend. Hamagbi mitzvah lechaveroi koina chaveroi. But over here, the bikeach is picking it up for himself. He's not picking it up for his friend. So how can you say that he's not koina and his friend is? How is that cherish koina? It doesn't make, guys, the cherish there's no mechanism of a kinyan for this cherish to get it. So we have to rework it. So it says the Gemara, one more time, hi Mike. If you're going to say, hani mili, when is that? That's when you're picking it up for your friend. He's picking it up for himself. But the bikeach's not koina. He can be makne to what? To the cheresh? Ella ema, so switch again. Mitoich shaloi koina bikeach, loi koina cheresh. Now, guys, so initially we started off, they're both koina. Then you wanted to go to bikeach not, cheresh yes. Now we're both no. Both no. There's no mechanism over here. Miga zechel nafshi doesn't work because the cheresh can't be zechel for the bikeach. Hamag mitzil chaveru can work because he's picking it up for himself. So how can it work? It doesn't. It doesn't. If a cheresh and a cheresh and a bikeach pick this up, they're both not kaina. If two charashim pick it up, why does it work? Guys, what mechanism? You have the same problem. Two charashim pick it up. You have the same problem. What's the mechanism that they're both kaina? Says Gemara Hasam Tekilei Rabbanon le'asi lansuye. Right? But the Rabbanon will be metakin that what? They won't come to fight. Maybe I'll come to fight with the Pikeach if they're not kaina. But Hacham Meima Amr, he says to himself, Pikeach le'kana ani akni. If the Pikeach doesn't get it, I should get it. Okay? Because that's that. So we analyze Rabbi's din. We analyze Rabbi's din and his Mikul. Now, Rami Bar Chama said it din. How do we get into this? Zoysa meris from our Mishnah. So let's go back to our Mishnah. Let's go back to the opening night. Let's go back to Beis Amid Aleph. Seems like a long time ago, right? It was only last Friday morning at 8:00. Okay. Anyway, Shnai Marks and Batalis. We're going to try to fit this in. Both say I found it. Zoy Mekula Shli, Zoy Mekula Shli. Say Yeshava Shnei Pachas Metzia, Say Yeshava V'Yachleiku. Is that a case of Magim Mitzil Chaveru Kainel Chaveroi? It can't be. Why? Each one saying that what? It's his. So now the Gemara's Havamin is going to be the second case. Zoy Mekula Shli. Why'd you have to tell me that? So that extra mission is to tell me that. But we said that case is speak up Mekach Memka. Next case. Okay. Zoy Mekula Shli, V'Zoy Mechetza Shli. This guy says the whole thing is mine. This guy says half is mine. So the one that says Kula Shli swears he has less than half, less than 3/4. The one who says half, he has less than 1/4, and the same thing. Then the next case, two people on an animal. One's Reichi, one's Manig, one person's riding the animal, one person's leading the animal. What's the din? Same din. Finally, so Bisman. The last din is one we need, guys. Bisman shein moedim, when they're both moeda that they picked it up for each other. That's going to be the raya of Rami Bar Chama. How can they both be kaina? Guys, how can they both be bisman de moeda yachloku? That's going to be the case where they're both moeda that belongs to each one. That's the case of magim mitzil chaver kaina chavero. In that last line. But there's no cherish over here. There's two normal people. There's two normal people. Okay. Says the Gemara. That was a 2-line. When it gets wide, the second line. Where's the diak of Rami Bar Chama that a mag mitzil chaver kaina chaveroi? Ine memoration. The first case, Shnai Marks and Batalis. Hasam haika amakula shli by no agbate kula. This guy's saying, I didn't pick it up for him. I picked it up for myself, and I picked up the whole thing. By amar kula shli by no agbata, and I picked up the whole thing. Kula. So that can't be the case. El meha diktani zema kula shli v'zema kula shli. Hasulamali. Once you said an imet sasiya, why do you have to say the words zema kula shli? So that Elam Mishnah Yisera from those extra words, Shmami no hamag mitzil chaver kaina chaveroi. In fact, those aren't extra words. Well, kimna reisha b'mitzia v'seif of mekach memka. We said an imet sasiya is a case of mitzia, and the case of kula shli is a case of mekach memka. Ella, it must be meseifa. Zema kula shli v'zema chetzia shli. This guy says the whole thing. This guy says half. Hasulamali, you know that from the first case, correct? First case is each one claims a whole, they get a half. So this guy's claiming a whole, and this guy's claiming a half. So this guy gets 3/4, and this person gets 1/4. Ella Mishnah Yisera, it must be totally extra to teach me the din about Shmami no mag mitzil chaver kaveroi. Umemai de mitzia dil mekach memka. How do you know the case is why it's speaking about mitzia? Maybe it's speaking about where they both purchased from a person, they both gave him money. What's the chiddush? It's the you know it's why would you tell me that's mekach memka? We already said mekach memka. The case of kula shli, guys, look at my hands. Ani mitzia was case number 1 was mitzia. Kula shli was mekach memka. Now you're telling me the case of a half and 1/4 is mekach memka. You already told me that in case number 2. You already told me that in case number 2. What are you telling me? It says more salka that I would have thought. This guy who said chetza shali, I would say he should get the whole half. Why? Because he could have said the whole thing. Remember, we had the case of Slan and Dinrim. We had a star that says Sloyim. What's Sloyim? 2. Guy said 3. He said more. So the same thing over here. He could have said the whole thing, and he said what? He said half. So I would think over there, Kamash Malon, the higher Rumi Kama Arim, this guy who said a half is making a trick. Savar, I mean, a coolish. If I say the whole thing's mine, I'm going to have to swear. So that's the chiddush of this case, that you still have to swear. The Mela, we don't have a source yet for Rabbi Vacham is din or what? A magmitzvah chaver, kind of chaver. Elameha. Right now, that's the exact same case as what as the first case. What's the difference of two people holding onto a talus, a person riding an animal or leading an animal? We'll see there's a lot difference. Hasul Hamali, El Mishni Seir, from the fact that that case is extra. Shmami no Hamag Mesir Chavei Nechaveri. Maybe the chiddush is that roichiv is kind of guys. If the guy's riding an animal, the guy's leading the animal. The guy leading the animal has a bigger feast than the animal. The guy on top has less, and therefore you would say that the chiddush is that roichiv kimanig, that they're both equal. So therefore, if you needed the chiddush to tell me the one riding is similar to the one leading, then it can't be extra to teach me the din of a magnet. So we're still stuck. And as we analyzed the whole Mishnah, bang, 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 we went through every case, and we did not come to yet a hachlata, a decision of Rami Yochaman's din. Guys, you with me? I know I'm speaking fast, but it's pretty glad. Says Gemara Elim Seifa. This man shein moedem, were they both moida, or sheyesh le'edim, that they both picked it up, then cholkim b'lei shvua. B'mai. Even if they both paid for it, you don't have to tell me that. Metzia, good, and that's where Rami Yochanan knows his din. But they're both maida. Now, they're both maida, they picked it up, correct? So this guy picked it up for him, this guy picked it up for him, that's good. Because if they're not yechlaiku, then it's still on the ground. Guys, remember, if it's not yechlaiku, there's no hagbah here. The fact that yechlaiku means there's a kinyan. What's the kinyan? I picked it up for you, and you picked it up for me, and thus there's a hagbah, and thus yechlaiku. That's the raya of Rami Bar Chama. Now, what did Rava say? You have no raya. Rava amalach migu the zechan nafshi zechan amal chavre. In other words, ken zayin the magnet sirvera like kind of chavera. Why? Because it's b'makom shechav la'acherim. Because other people, you're taking away hefka from other people. So why would it work? Migu that I was zeicha for myself. Since I can be zeicha for myself, I'm zeicha for you. Okay, that ends the more difficult part of the daf. Okay, the last end of the Mishnah was roichiv. We had roichiv, two people are riding on an animal, yechloiku, roichiv umanig. A person's riding on the animal, a person's leading the animal. Be aware that leading the animal is Mashicha. Mashicha is the kinyan of metaltalin, right? If it's behema gasa, it's Mesira, giving over the reins. These are kinyanim that we saw in Masechta Kedushin. And this is, so therefore the one holding on the reins clearly has a tfis in the animal. The guy riding on the animal, not so much. Again, you would think the guy sitting on the animal shows more of a bilus. It's not true. It's in the parsha of kinyanim, there's no such kinyan as sitting. Okay, the guy, so now, what? Okay, so now, but so the case of manig, manig is where he is holding the reins as well. Taisva says, and therefore they're equal. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef, but he's not leading the animal. Rabbi Yosef, Li Rabbi Yehuda, Beis. Shamina mina demar Shmuel. Okay, so now, guys, a little bit of history. We met Rabbi Yehuda multiple times. I don't know how many times in Shas. The leading Amoraim in Bavel were Rav and Shmuel. Rav Yehuda was a Talmud of Rav, and when Rav was Nifta, he went to learn by Shmuel. And he is known as Shinana, sharp one. So we have Rav Yehuda Rav Yehuda Shmuel throughout Shas. Rav Yehuda's Talmud was Rabbi Yosef, right? It was the famous Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef's Talmud was Rabbi Yosef, and his Talmud was Abaya. So that's the Messiah of very, very, very famous early Amoraim, and leading to Abaya was like in the middle Tekufis. Now, so says Rav Yehuda, I heard from Shmuel Tarti, two dinim, Rochav Umanig, regarding one riding an animal and one leading an animal. Chad Kani, one of them you acquire, the Chad Loi Kana, and one is not. And says Rabbi Yehuda, V'lo Yodana Haiminayu, and I don't know which one is Kana and which one's not. Now, if you figure out one, you'll automatically know the other. So if I'd ask you, if it's a classic case of a guy leading a horse, a guy riding on a horse, which one you think is the Kenyan? I say the guy leading the horse, right? And therefore you know Rochiv is not Kaina. So why would the great Rabbi Yehuda, with the almost a brain that we can't imagine, why would it be a problem, right? Why would it be a problem? Says Gemara, Hechidami, Ilema Rochiv L'chudei, if you're telling me it's a rider alone without anyone leading, Umanig L'chudei, or a person leading an animal, Manig L'chudei, the Manig alone, Mi'ika manda ama lekana. Is there a manda who says you're not kaina? That's Mashiach, guys. So obviously that can't be the case that Rabbi Yehuda was struggling with to figure out what Rav Shmuel held. Because after all, that would be obvious if there's two separate dinim. there are two separate cases, one of roichev aloin, one of manig aloin. Obviously, the manig is kaina, it must be roichev, it's not kaina. Now, iyel kemema deloy kaina, rachav hu deikal mema. It must be rachav, we can say it's not kaina. Okay. Ela rochiv b'mokem manig. Ela must be where they're both. Rochiv b'mokem manig. Iboilahu, my. Rochiv adif the hatafis ba. Is the rochiv adif because he's typhus, he's grabbing. Look at Taisus, guys. Rochiv adif the toughest ba. Ein lefarish the toughest baraglav. Don't see it means that he has his feet around the animal. Or what you might thinking that he's sitting on the animal. The highlight mikri toughest ba. That's not called toughest. El v'mashu toughest b'maisera. That he's holding on to the reins. Kari toughest ba. That's called toughest ba. So he's holding on to the reins, right? So he's holding on to the reins. In addition to him holding on to the reins, he's pulling the animal. So who do you view stronger, the roichiv or the manig? So Rabbi Yosef, so that was the shaila that Shmuel does not know the answer to. He heard from Rabbi Yehuda heard from Shmuel that one of them is kain and one of them is not, where you have a roichev on the animal, and there's a svara to say he's kaina because he's sitting on the animal and holding the reins, or is the manik kaina because it's causing him to move as well. So Rabbi Yosef, Amali Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said, Rabbi Yosef told Abaya, Rabbi Yehuda nichsi anan. I don't know why I said Abaya. Nichsi anan. Let us see. Ditnan. Now this is the Mishnah in Kalayim. We know there's us to go ahead and guys and plow or do any work with what? A shor and a chamar together. It's not dafka shamar, it's any animal. But we learn shor from Shabbos, any animal, but the Torah says shor chamar yachtav. So you have a shor, you have a chamar, they're together, and you're in a wagon, and they're leading you, okay, or you're pulling it. So you get malchus for being going to the lav of l'sachva shor chamar yachtav. So now, Hamanig, the person who leads them, Soifigas Aboyim, he gets Malchus 40, he's over the lav. The manig's over the lav. The Hayoshiv Bikorin, and the one who's sitting in the wagon, Soifigas Aboyim, he also gets, right? He also gets. So according to the Tanakama, there's no one more powerful than the next. Now, we're equating the getting Malchus with what? Like making the animal move, right? So if sitting in the wagon, I guess the weight that they feel the weight is causing it to move, or holding onto the reins and pulling it, both would be equal according to the Tanakama. However, Rabbi Paiter, that's a Yoshev. Rabbi would pater the Yoshev, the one sitting in the wagon, Bikarin. Good. So now, why do we have to know the second guys? Why would Meir say the guy sitting in the wagon is pater? Because he's not considered like he's doing anything. So therefore, guys, let's correlate it. If you're going to get Malchus for what? For whatever you're doing, that obviously is what is equal to a kinyan, right? That equally you're doing something. So if you hold, you both get Malchus. You can't be machriya one more than the other. If on the other hand, you're telling me leading gets Malchus and sitting doesn't, so obviously manig must be more choshev than roichev. Good? Now, so this is what Rameya said. What? The Gemara continues the Gemara. Umida'apich Shmuel. When Shmuel went ahead and switched around the money, the Chachamim Poitrin as Hayoshev Bikarin, the Chachamim Pata someone who sits in the Karin, meaning he made a switcheroo that Rameya became the one that says Yechayev, the one sitting, and the Chachamim Patrin. Why did Shmuel do that, guys? Because he wanted the halacha to go according to the majority, right? So he made the Chachamim. That right made the Chachamim. Now, Shmamina Rochiv L'chudei Loi Kana. You see, the Rochiv alone is not Kana because the Rochiv is tantamount with what? With the Yoshev. So therefore, the Kol Shkein Rochiv b'Makamanik. Madik Rochiv alone, sitting in the wagon alone, you're not Kana because you're not going to get Malchus. Certainly, Rochiv b'Manik. So we can answer the Shaila. Said Rabbi Yosef, I heard from Rabbi Yehuda Nichse Anan from this din in the way Shmuel switched around, switched around the Chachamim to say Yapata, and therefore we can paisha the Shaila, Roichiv Manig. Roichiv is not kaina, Manig would be kaina. Amalei Abai Rabbi Yosef Hazimim Sagian Amit Lo Nichsi Anan Lo Amit Lo Mishmei Rabbi Yehuda. Now Abai saw, guys, Rabbi Yosef was sick. Call Rabbi Yosef Shachak Terasai. I'll tell you a story. It's an unbelievable story. It just hit me in the head. Rabbi Abramsky said over the story. Rabbi Abramsky was the Rav in Slutsk, the town in Europe, in Russia. They told over a story about a previous Rav named Rav Yosel Slutska. He was from Slutsk, Yosel Slutska. He said that somebody said to him, I think it was an Amaretz or a Cheresh, or a person who was literally said, Cholish Rav Yosef Shakach Terasai. Rav Yosef got sick and he forgot his Torah. That's what he said. Anyway, it was, I think, Yom Kippur. And Metzia Yom Kippur, he sent the Gabbai to get all the Rabbanim to town together. He got them to town together, and he said over Baal Peh Ois V'Ois the ganze Shulchan Aruch, because he was scared that the person said Cholish Rav Yosef Shachar Teirasai, that he Chas v'Shalom, that he should forget his Torah. So he said it over, and then he called them all over right away after Yontif. I'm missing exactly how it happened. I forgot. I forgot. But anyway, but I didn't forget the story. I forgot all the pictures of the story. But anyway, so Rabbi Yosef was sick, guys, and therefore Abai would remind them all the time. So what happened over here? He said it over in the name of Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi said, you told us over before, but you didn't mention Rabbi Yehuda, right? So that's what he says. Amalei Abai, Rabbi Yosef, Hazimin Sagian, Amritlon, many times you went ahead and told us over to us, Nichsi Anan, V'lei Amritlon Mishmei Rabbi Yehuda. You never said it in the name of Rabbi Yehuda. So Amalei Rabbi Yosef said, Ibra, it's emes. I remember, I remember my memory. V'dakrina Nami, and I also remember the Amilei that Rabbi Yehuda told us, Hechi Poshit Mar Roichiv Miyoshiv. How could Rabbi Yehuda, how could you be Poshit Roichiv from Yoshev? Again, your whole proof is based upon equating sitting in a wagon and riding a horse. Yoshev like Tafis B'Maseira, Rochiv Tafis B'Maseira. So there's a big difference. When you're sitting in the wagon, you're not holding on to the reins. And over here, you're holding on to the bridle, you're holding on to the reins of the horse. So how can you go ahead, and compare the two? And that's what we asked Rabbi Yehuda. That's what we asked him. And what happened? Amali, and Rabbi Yehuda said to me, after I asked him this question, Rav Shmuel Damid Travayu, Maisera, that you're holding, right, without the das of the makna lekona. You don't go ahead and acquire the animal. Just holding on to it without the das of a person being makna to you, you won't go ahead and be kind. In other words, if I want to sell you an elephant, if I want to sell you a cow, I can give you the reins and you'll be kind. You know why? Because my das will be makna to you. Masha'en kain, if you're getting it from Hefker, it's a one-sided deal. One-sided deal, sitting on an animal, you're not going to. We're speaking about Metzia, that won't make the kinyan. So therefore, enachinami, it will quite rachiv is not as strong as manik. Okay, that was one. Ikad the Amri. Others say Rabbi Yosef said, the Amila Abayil Rabbi Yosef, Hechi Poshit Mar. How could you be placed to the din of rachiv from what that he's kaina from Yosef in the wagon? Yosef like toughest b'Meseira, Rachiv toughest b'Meseira, v'amalei hachitani idi like kana. And Idi, he said that holding on to the brisa, you're not kaina. Right? He's in the Ikadiyami in Achinami, he said holding on to what the reins is not kaina. Ikadiyami, that Rabbi Yosef himself answered the raya from Yosef B'Karin. The only difference, guys, was it Rabbi Yosef or Rabbi Yehuda? It's kind of like the same din. Same din is what holding on to the reins alone is not kaina. It manami, that holding on to the reins is not kaina. Rab Chelboy, Rab Yehuda, Meisera mechaveira kana. If your friend gives you over the reins, it's kaina. You know why? Guys, remember, he's being makna it to you. When you have a transaction, you have two things taking place. You're acquiring the transaction, and the person's giving it to you. So when he gives it to you, then Meisera works. But when it's a one-sided transaction, when you're coming from Hefka, then it doesn't. The Metzia, Nichsi Ager, however, Metzia and Nichsi Ager is not going to work. Metzia and Nichsi Ager again, we remember the Ger dies, he has no Yarshim, You're going to go get it. We just did it in Baba Kama. So then Meseira would not work. My Lashon Meseira, what's Lashon Meseira? Amarava, Edi, the person named Edi, Asbrali, like a person goes Edwad and gives something over to his chaver. Now, Bishlei Mechaveri, kind of why the Komos Le Chavre. So you have Das Acheres Makna. I will Metzia, but say again, Manka Masalei Delikni, who's giving over to him that he should what? He should be kind of. And we'll stop here. It's so funny.